Hello everyone. Today I thought that I would do another author spotlight because I did an author spotlight on Toni Morrison and it's one of my most viewed videos. And in 2025, I hope that a lot of people want to read more Black and Indigenous people of color literature. And some of my favorite authors are BIPOC authors. So I thought that I would do a specific author spotlight on Gayl Jones. I know a lot of people have probably never heard of Gayl Jones, which is a crime. So we're gonna get educated today by talking about the 5 books that I have by Gayl Jones and where to start, what to read, why you need to read her, and kind of the monumental work that she's done. If you did not know, Gayl Jones was an author that was actually edited by Toni Morrison when Toni Morrison worked in publishing. So if you like Toni Morrison, a lot of people will recommend Gayl Jones, and I completely agree. However, I think that they're very different authors, so I wouldn't necessarily say the writing is super compatible, but the kind of storytelling macro abilities are very similar, as well as a lot of the stories themselves, but their actual technical writing skills are very different. And let me just talk through kind of how I found out about her, what she likes to write about. So I found out about her through Brown Girl Reading, who I love. She's amazing. She actually put me onto this book like years and years ago, and I believe it's called Coriegdora. I'm not exactly sure if that's how Gayl would pronounce it, but this is a really intense book. It's about kind of, on a macro level, it's really just about the way that slavery can go from generation to generation, especially among women. But on a micro level, it's about a girl and kind of the way that women work together, the way that stories are told from one woman to another, specifically about slavery and about what the women have gone through. And it's just absolutely amazing. I also believe that, yeah, she's a singer, the main character, and she sings at a like blues club called Happy's Cafe. And she marries a man who's kind of controlling, and you learn about her as a young person, you learn about her and her marriage, you learn about her and the way that she interacts with the people around her, her employer. And this is just a really good book. This is a 5-star. Every book that I've read by her is a 5-star, which does not happen very often. So this is how I originally got into Gayl Jones. Next, I read Eva's Man, which is very similar. I would say there's a lot of similarities between Coriegdora and Eva's Man. I would say if you're gonna see one of these at a store, I would probably pick up Eva's Man to start with, but trigger warning for domestic violence, abuse, some like self-mutilation. It's pretty intense, but it says that this is a taut and explosive yet sensual and eerie, and it's a psychological portrait of a woman unable to love for fear of pain. And she's like imprisoned, her like lover has imprisoned her, and she's kind of begins by writing about what that experience is like. And then she goes back in time and flips back and forth to tell you about like how she got into that situation. And this is just a really amazing one as well. I read this in an airport and it was literally crazy. Then I read The Birdcatcher, which is I believe a republishing of an older work. And this one is amazing. So this is set on Ibiza. And it's about a woman named Amanda, and she's a writer, and she goes to visit her friend and her husband, who are, all of them are kind of like writers, authors, artistic people. And so Catherine, one of her really good friends, and Peter are the couple, and Catherine has tried to kill, Ernest, that's his name. So Catherine has tried to kill Ernest multiple times in multiple different ways, and she keeps getting put into like insane asylums and then gets out and then tries to do it again. But you don't really understand, why would people keep hanging out with her? Why would you stay married to her? Like, there's all these questions, and the narrator, Amanda, kind of talks you through like, why am I friends with her? What have I learned from her? Who is this woman, and how do I interact with her in this situation? This one is beautifully written, also 5 stars. I think this is probably the most modern writing I've read from Gayl Jones. It's like a very clear linear narrative. It's a clear plot. Like, there's not a lot of like work that has to be done. Like these two, you have to do a lot of work to get through these, but it's good work, but it's work nonetheless. And so if you see this one, I mean, this one is also really amazing, and the scenes are just absolutely next level. Like, it's just amazing. I would say trigger warning for genital mutilation, and domestic violence, which is kind of like a trigger for all of Gayl Jones's work. She's very provocative, but she writes about real stuff that's affecting the Black community through her eyes, and it's very informative, especially as a person that's not of color and a white person. I get to feel like I learn a lot through these books because they're very real. And it's written by someone who is a pillar of the Black community when it comes to the writing scene. Then I picked up her short stories called Butter. This is her novellas, short stories, and fragments. This one was also a 5 stars for me, but it was a very different reading experience. I'm not a huge short story person, so it's hard for me to like really give a short story a really honest review because it's not my favorite way to read. But I mean, she's just like, let me just read this. She had a string of boyfriends, real ones and dream ones, an electrician, a plumber, a high school football coach, a motorcycle repairman, a welder in an automobile plant, a diver, a Coast Guardsman, a gardener, an organizer of social cooperatives, mostly rough and ready types. She didn't know how the organizer sneaked in there. Was he the sort who'd please Ramunda? Dante was born in Nassau in the Bahamas and composes contemporary music that has base in the music of Junkanoo. So it's just like, beautiful, beautiful prose. These are definitely a lot less triggering, I would say. Like, there's not as much intense stuff in these because they're shorter form. But if you like that and you feel like that might be a better way for you to get to know Gayl Jones, I don't think Butter is a bad place to start. And then my most recent read, and it's what I'm reading right now, is a new release that came out in 2024, and it is called The Unicorn Woman. I literally am like 6 pages into this, so I feel like I can't really tell you anything about it other than it's a man who sees this woman who's like a freak unicorn woman at a carnival, and he's just kind of gets to be obsessed with her. But it's just amazing. I mean, at the beginning it says, it was a spring carnival in central Kentucky, sometime after the Second World War. That's when I first saw her. Alone, but nevertheless in a holiday-making mood, I was strolling about eating a burger and drinking a Coke when suddenly I spotted a large billboard advertising the Unicorn Woman. So, I mean, she is just next level. If you like literary fiction that does not F around and that can really challenge you as a reader, I don't think it matters who you are, what you identify as. Like, this is an important author and people need to be reading Gayl Jones. Like, Gayl Jones needs some respect put on her name. And if you Google her, she was a wild person. Like, she had a lot going on. Her husband had a lot going on. Like, she was just crazy, but like not in the crazy way, in a good way. I don't even want to say crazy. She was just really amazing. And she like doesn't do interviews. She doesn't talk to anybody. It's like, she just comes out with books randomly. No one knows it's gonna happen. It's kind of like an Elena Ferrante, but you know her. So yeah, if you haven't read Gayl Jones, like you need to get on it. And if you haven't watched Brown Girl Reading, you also need to get on it because she's amazing. So read these books. Please read these books. If that's the first thing that you do in 2025, you are set up for a good year of literature. I will report back on The Unicorn Woman, but I am really enjoying it so far. And like, it's not every day that I'm rating something 5 stars from every single book that I've read. I mean, that's pretty unheard of. So please read Gayl Jones and let me know if you've ever read her before. I would say if you like Hani Anakahara, Toni Morrison, who else is really kind of similar, interesting? J.M. Coetzee, his book, The Pole, kind of reminds me of a lot of this work. And Iris Murdoch, I would say those are like the pillars that if you like that kind of literature, you like that storytelling, you're really gonna love Gayl Jones. So check them out, Barnes & Noble, small shops, order it, get it, educate yourself on this because she is not here to play. And I will see you in the next video.